so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life? Well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online, and you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. All right, all you positive heads, welcome to the show. So happy to be back with you guys again, as always. And always, I have my lovely beans here, Connor Evans and Lindsay Hillegas here to help steer the ship yet again today. Hello, Connor. Hello, Lindsay. How are you guys?
Hey, super friends.
Super friends, activate. We still have, if you guys listened yesterday, you'll be happy to know we are holding our magic wands again. So as we weave the new spells, talking about the powers that were, we're going to continue the conversation. Some of you guys, if you're just tuning into this episode, you may want to go back to yesterday, Monday's release, where we started talking about, the financial system a little bit, talking about the political system, the 2012 shift, and what's really going on our planet. This is a subject that I haven't talked about a whole lot. It's something that these two lovely souls have spent a lot of energy, researching and understanding where we're at, where we're going. So I thought, and you guys have, reached out many times asking, thoughts on some of these sort of the cabal, if you will, or shadow government, deep state. And so I felt like it was a good time to breach that subject. And so where should we pick up, Lindsay? Where should we pick up, Connor? Where did we leave off?
Where did we leave off?
we left off with the transition that happened in early 2013 with the financial system being exposed and the beings running it having their private information leaked by Anonymous working with an alliance within the Pentagon. And we said that we would pick up today with the modern unfolding. So that was 2012. So now fast forward, I think a great place to fast forward to is 2016. Let's see, it was the shift 22. So 4 years, right? So 4 years into this prophesized time of transformation, awakening, and transparency. While I was out at Standing Rock, we held a really powerful ceremony on December 21st, the winter solstice, out at Standing Rock. And I just learned this year that this happened on that same day. So Trump is the face of this alliance. He was approached 3 years ago by the alliance that we mentioned yesterday. That's 160 nations working in concert with, say, 90% of our military and intelligence agencies that are honoring their oath to defend the Constitution from threats both foreign and domestic. So that alliance got Trump to run.
So let me get this straight, and I'm sure the listeners out there. Hold on. Is Connor saying that Trump is part of the good guys team?
Trump was not a bought and sold already career politician.
Right.
That could have come. He had the platform to come in. He had the influence to come in, and he had the money to fund his own campaign. And he was really reticent about it. He didn't want to do this. He was shown kind of the fundamentals of the deep state and the cabal and child trafficking and drug smuggling and gun running. And I've said before, I have grandparents in the CIA, and the CIA was, largely coordinating a lot of that and coordinating the overthrow of democratically elected presidents in developing countries that wanted to use the resources in the country to benefit the people in their country rather than serving the corporatocracy or the shadow government. And they'd get ousted in a coup or assassinated, or, we'd send in the Marines. John Perkins really clearly articulates that in Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And he worked inside this system, and then it was tearing his spirit apart. So he came out and is doing his best to articulate what was and articulate where we're going, dreaming the new dream.
Right.
And he has deep shaman roots from his time in Ecuador when he was in the Peace Corps. So on December 21st, 2016, this was passed, a declaration of national emergency for serious human rights abuses worldwide. So it allows for the indictment, the freezing of accounts, and the arrest of beings that are guilty of mass human rights abuses and financial fraud. So it's targeting the child trafficking rings, it's targeting the pedophile rings, and it's targeting the financial fraud. And because everything's energy on this planet, whatever vibe we held collectively was what allowed for our possibilities. And so having that child trafficking and pedophilia energy on the planet, and also like darker aspects, looking at it so that we can see what was, to see how far we've come. Not just pedophilia, but actual child torture and sacrifice. And there's one just clear example. Jimmy Savile in 2013, or maybe 15, it was revealed that he had over 450 different accounts of pedophilia charges against him.
Wow.
He was a prominent host on the Top of the Pops BBC. So he had the Rolling Stones on 33 different times, and he was a prominent BBC personality. And a lot of beings knew that he had this really nefarious other side to him. And he was able to basically live out his life and not be held accountable until after he passed through, played his role perfectly, the catalyst for the awakening. So 450 different accounts of being manipulated by this man. And he had several children's hospitals. And so one account, and I found this in David Wilcox's book, The Synchronicity Key, was him taking this young girl, to one of these chambers in his children's hospital and torturing and raping her while chanting Ave Satanas, which is Hail Satan.
Gee whiz.
So that energy was just a boat anchor for our consciousness. So uprooting those child trafficking pedophilia rings is one of the most important things that can be done on the planet outside of transitioning to a new financial system that's asset-backed. So this executive order was passed December 21st, 2016, 4 years after our shift into this new prophesized time. And so now it's unfolding. It started in Saudi Arabia last year with the arrest of 49 high-level politicians and princes. And Saudi Arabia is who we made the deal with in 73 to back the Federal Reserve notes with oil. So that was the beginning of the accountability. And since then, it's evolved into so we're at the place now of 30,000 indictments.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's been building, and usually there's only about 1,000 indictments in a year. Like, it took 30 years to get this many indictments up until now. And now we are approaching, I saw recently 24,000, and now we're approaching 30,000 indictments. And it's specifically the Federal Reserve financial interests, the politicians that were playing out the game politically, the Bushes and Clintons both, and then the Podestas. And so it's rounding up both the child trafficking, the human trafficking, and the financial fraud. And it's holding them accountable through indictment. And we've reached about 30,000 now.
Wow.
And so that's in real time unfolding now. And
is this something I don't watch the nightly news, as you can imagine, but is this something that's being talked about publicly? That all these indictments. I mean,
not in the mainstream, not at all. No, only. Oh yeah, QAnon. QAnon is an alliance insider who is giving and leaking out information that they're allowed to give out to those of us in the public eye, or not in the public eye, I mean the public.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, QAnon on 4chan board, really kind of interesting that it's on the 4chan board. But yeah, there's been various times where Trump has actually verified QAnon as someone to be legit. During speeches, just little tiny words that he would say, or little hand signals too that he would do that would verified QAnon as someone to be legitimate. And so no one knows who QAnon is, hence Anon. And and yeah, so kind of just letting the public know what's going on. And so those people who are following Q, they are on YouTube and Facebook, kind of just disclosing and making it easier for the general public to digest this information about what's going on, hence why I know a lot. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, he's also talking about Q, talking about in a very mysterious way, and kind of in a way that's asking questions, so that people that are reading his posts, or her, whoever it is,
an alien perhaps,
probably, that to actually think about these questions and do their own research, because everything is hidden in plain sight. Mm-hmm. It really is, especially with the internet. And so everything is being disclosed in a moderate way for everyone to digest, and for everyone who is listening to give it out to the public, for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. And it's really, I mean, what was it? Comedy Central did a skit on QAnon too.
Oh,
so
really?
that shows,
so this is a pretty big,
showing,
it's
it's showing that it is having a major effect on the consciousness. The fact that it's getting on, and also Comedy Central did a thing on the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's funny too, because they're kind of Comedy Central is kind of trying to make it look like it's a joke, one big joke, but in reality, it's very real.
Right.
So
and that the mainstream media as well, the focus on the Trump train and the abomination of Trump has probably been the largest block to getting the actual message from the Alliance through Q out to the public in a way that beings can hear it, because the program that has been programmed in through the television is that Trump is a ridiculous monster of a human.
I mean, do you think, let's just understand your perspective on Trump. Like, I mean, I look at it from a perspective of, and certainly haven't done any deep dive into this stuff, which is why I wanted to bring you guys on to get your whole download and perspective, and to share with listeners and for them to decide what they feel and think. But one of the things I notice is Trump is, there's definitely a lot of like ego energy happening there, which, I always say EGO, everybody's greatest obstacle, or edging God out, It's like, there's definitely a lot of, I mean, and I'm not saying someone who's really lost in their ego, or, tied up in their ego, can't ever be a benefit and be of service, and so I'm not claiming that. But do you guys, I mean, what is your perspective on him as a being? Like, do you think he is like this, white knight in shining armor that really is just being, misunderstood? Or do you think he's someone who's sort of playing this role? He's kind of a screwed up guy who's got a lot of growth to do, who just happens to be, ballsy enough to play the role and kind of trump the system?
I think it's a mix of all of it.
Yeah.
Because from what I've heard and using my own discernment and research and all that, I have come to the realization or conclusion that Trump knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, and also a lot of what he tweets about, which is his major way of communicating to the world, mostly Americans, is code. There's like hidden messages in what he's saying that also aligns with what Q is saying too.
It's hard for me to and maybe I just need to look or listen more carefully. Maybe I'm just being not understanding, but he loses me when it's like he's, if I was a public figure, or if Kanye right now said something really nasty about Trump, he'd probably say Kanye, Kanye, look at you got big ears. It's like childish energy. And to me, it's hard to take someone seriously in any way, shape, or form who's like, obviously you've done none of the self-work to even grow beyond your 13-year-old self, on many levels.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm not saying that someone like that can't then in turn, maybe that is the perfect person for the job to help disrupt the old system because he's just not even aware enough to be scared, or, and yes, he is not owned, as I think Robin Williams used to say, politicians should be like NASCAR drivers. They should have to wear all their sponsors on their jackets. I mean, so I think that part of him I have always appreciated. Yet he's against the grain and against the system and not owned by anyone. But then what he is autonomously is hard for me to really appreciate and respect.
I think you nailed it, and I think that he's the ultimate trump card because he's serving as the face of the alliance, and he's actually waking up so many of us to the corruption of the political system simply by doing something like appointing Rex Tillerson, the CEO of ExxonMobil, to be Secretary of State. It's like, oh, this really is a corporatocracy. Right.
So that's a great example, though, right there. Okay, how is that a part of the alliance that's then putting into power these people who are not for free energy and not for, and he seems to be, from the little bit I do know as a nonocrat that follows very little and gives very little energy to the political system, he seems to be, from what I hear and trickles through to me, that he is for a lot of the old systems and things like that.
So with Rex is no longer Secretary of State. He actually, you're fired. And think of the ultimate guy to fire the deep state. You're fired.
Bring him in and then fire him? Is that his game? That's pretty good. I mean, I'm okay.
That Trump had the show where his main line, celebrities, you're fired.
You're fired.
So there's been the largest shift in foreign policy and economic policy that we've seen. And Trump has fired. The administration the alliance has fired a lot of beings in the administration. And that's really important because we talked on the podcast I was on last time about the Council on Foreign Relations, which interfaced with the Bilderberg Group and the Trilateral Commission, and how this group, the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, goes back to 1921. And its funding has come from the big corporations and the Rockefeller, Ford, Carnegie think tanks. And it was building the global financial order to render our Constitution obsolete and basically have a global financial dictatorship. And that CFR was, you can see videos on YouTube of Hillary talking to the CFR, talking about how she gets most of her information, and now she's grateful that there's headquarters of the CFR right down the street from the State Department because she won't have as far to go to hear about what we should be doing in the world and how we should be thinking about things. And then you can see Cheney addressing the Council on Foreign Relations, saying how he used to be a member, but he didn't mention that when he was running for election. And so David Rockefeller, he was the chairman emeritus of the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Council on Foreign Relations was basically a staffing house for the government, both sides, red and blue, giving us the illusion of choice. So no matter which president was in, the advisors would all have this same agenda. So that's the shadow government that's now being uprooted. And I think that Trump's the perfect guy because of his energy, because of his ego. It depends on, people can be in two places. People can be in a myriad of places. But
multidimensional beings.
To put it simply, if you were asleep to the corruption of the American political system like I was until I was maybe 22, I thought America was a beautiful democracy that spread peace and freedom around the world.
Right.
Because I was distracted by hockey and I was born into a family that, was kind of part of empire, like
Right.
CIA, Wall Street.
Yeah.
So I think Trump is shaking people awake to the corruption of the old system while simultaneously allowing the alliance to uproot that corruption. And so it's making the ultimate space for something new to come in.
Interesting.
You want to take it?
Yeah,
about
I
the
think
HR?
everything Trump says is pre-planned and is specifically trying to cause a specific reaction.
So you think he's really he's very see, to me he seems so reactive.
Right,
So is
yeah.
he planned to seem really reactive?
Honestly, yes, he is. I feel that he has been acting as this kind of villain president to everyone. So, because I know for a fact that the Alliance's plan is to keep your enemies closer. That's because their failed attempt at restoring the Republic on 9/11, basically 2001, was a complete fail because the cabal, shadow government, was 5 steps ahead of them. And so they had to kind of recreate their entire plan to then be 10 steps ahead of the cabal. And so they're doing this, it's a sting operation. They're doing this it's a game where they have completely fooled the entire shadow government into believing, for example, with Hillary Clinton and the whole Russian collusion thing, Hillary Clinton and the liberal Democratic left party were trying to blame Trump and put on him that he was colluding with Russia when he wasn't, because that was what they were doing. Hillary Clinton, the left.
And it's what oil companies have done too.
Yeah.
Like in the disinformation about climate destabilization. In that narrative of Russia interfering in our elections, WikiLeaks and Julian Assange continually said that the information that they had on the DNC was a leak, not a hack. And so Seth Rich worked for the DNC, and during the elections he was killed. Yeah. And they said it was a robbery. That was the official report, but he had his phone and his wallet. Nothing was taken. He was just shot in the back of the head. It was an assassination. So Julian Assange continually said it was a leak, not a hack. And so the deep state, to try to cover its tracks, was saying that Russia hacked the DNC to interfere in our elections, when what really happened is Seth Rich leaked to WikiLeaks this information on the DNC, which showed that the DNC had rigged the election against Bernie. And so then the best that the deep state could turn around and do is be like, oh, it was Russia interfering, because the deep state wanted to trigger a World War III scenario, because we have the internet, the alliance and the beings that have been paying attention, we know what's going on. And so if there was a World War III scenario where our grid got knocked out by an EMP, then that would have really disrupted this movement to dissolve the deep state. But we have extraterrestrial, multidimensional beings, and the extraterrestrial perspective is most clear around nuclear weapons facilities.
They've definitely shown up and taking control of nuclear
shut down
facilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some crazy stories about that.
All over.
Yeah.
All of these beings who are risking their lives to come out of the military and tell us about these extraterrestrials shutting down the nukes. And so we can't have a World War III scenario. We're at too high of a vibration. And kind of one of the last possibilities of that was North Korea. And I even saw it with my roommate, Jacob. I got home and he was talking about how Kim Jong-un needed to go. He was like, this guy's crazy. We just need to nuke them and be done with it. I don't want to have LA get nuked. And I was like, no, that's a program that's trying to commandeer your creative capacity to give consent to authorize this nuclear war. Because if the shadow government could have gotten enough of us to think that way, then we would have authorized it with our energetically and allowed it. So now that this truce between North and South Korea has happened, I came back from the Grand Canyon. I went there, having just talked about on my story the airstrikes in Syria, but I didn't know how many people died in that. I came back to learn that nobody died in those airstrikes, which is amazing. And then I came back to also hear that North and South Korea had made a truce, and we're celebrating peace. And it was kind of it was the last boogeyman of the cabal. And also ISIS has been largely neutralized.
Yeah.
And what WikiLeaks also showed, which was really important, is that the Clinton Foundation got $10 million from the House of Saud of Saudi Arabia. And people will say, like, Obama and Hillary, they made ISIS, they funded ISIS, like, they created ISIS. And it's like, no way, that's crazy. But what actually happened, and it's a little bit more complex than that, is that the House of Saud of Saudi Arabia gave $10 million to the Clinton Foundation over the course of her time as Secretary of State. Then Boeing gave $900,000 to the Clinton Foundation. 2 months after that, Hillary's State Department approved a $29 billion arms deal from Boeing and a consortium of Western military industrial contractors, approved it to Saudi Arabia. So we sent $29 billion of weapons over there. And what WikiLeaks revealed is that in her emails, she knew that Saudi Arabia was funneling those weapons to ISIS. Yeah. And they still approved that new $29 billion arms deal. So when people say that they were funding ISIS, they were, but they weren't like directly going over there and being like, here.
Yeah.
But
indirectly.
Yeah, they were being used by the military industrial financial fiat money backed by oil empire to allow for the boogeyman to continue, so that we would have a justification to continue interfering in these sovereign nations and to continue trying to control the resources to prop up the Federal Reserve notes backed by nothing except for the countries buying and selling oil for dollars. So we have forced other countries to buy and sell oil for dollars, and that has largely been what has kept the Federal Reserve notes valuable. So now that ISIS has been neutralized, now that there's the peace between North and South Korea, like, we're really, I've been saying Happy World Peace Day for a long time now. Like, we're basically there. And so this has all happened under Trump's presidency. And we're not saying that it's Trump. We're saying that he was a reluctant participant in a system that was orchestrated by our best military and intelligence minds. And that have been working on this because they don't want our country to have false flags that, allow for this shadow government to keep destroying the planet and its ecosystems. So he's...
Sorry, go ahead.
So he's just been the face of that, and I think that his energy that you're picking up on is serving to wake people up to the corruption of the political system, while he's like the fall guy. Yeah. He's like and I think he will I think he very well may be impeached. And then, like, the beings that are unaware of what was going on, we're going to make it through this transition with probably 90% of people not knowing any of this. And the shift is just going to happen, and it's not really going to be seen by the majority of beings. And what's so important is we use our creatorship to believe in the goodness and emanate the best vibes possible, rather than believing in the narrative of Trump's an idiot and we're idiots for electing him.
Yeah. Well, so that's all encouraging, and to me, that's always where I like to ultimately steer the conversation. Okay, what can I be most excited about? So thank you for pointing out, what's happening, and what are some of the other, I mean, I think on one different level, something that was shared on my social media, I think yesterday, where Fox News actually reporting how, it was like, a lot of my friends were posting, I never thought I'd see this on Fox News, and it was someone saying, like, how crazy it is. I guess this guy Jeff Sessions is against marijuana, legalization federally, and basically showing, look, the stats are out. It's people that were dying by opioid addiction and overdose are now, like, so much better off. Millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people. Like, this is ridiculous. Stop what you're doing. And it's like, hold on, did that just happen on Fox News, saying, marijuana is this wonderful, thing, essentially? And it's like, what world do I live in now? Right. So it's exciting.
The shift is happening.
Yeah, that's like wild.
And I actually appreciated Fox News during the election more than the liberal CNN's style of news. Like, I felt they were being more accurate based on the worldview that I've put together with all these different books that I've listened to. And I also heard Trump during the election talking about the Federal Reserve. One of the last campaign that he ran talked about the global financial interests that were destroying our country. And when he said that, it showed the Federal Reserve.
Interesting.
And so the media isn't going to tell us that. And the narrative that's been programmed in through the television about Trump has been very negative. And I think that it represents somewhat of the energy that he embodies with his big ego. Also, I think there's a lot of really important things he's talked about that haven't been brought to our attention. And again, it's not Trump, it's this much larger operation behind Trump.
So what else is exciting now that you feel most of the major threats have been neutralized? What are we going to see next? What's happening? What's bubbling up?
I just learned about this today from
Well,
Lindsay.
yeah. So Congress has proposed a bill, HR 5404, to basically make the dollar gold-backed, asset-backed.
Wow.
And
Gold and silver.
Gold and silver, yeah.
Which is what Kennedy tried to do.
I wonder if they're doing this as an
days.
answer to cryptocurrency, which is...
Well, that's the funny thing about cryptocurrency, too, is that cryptocurrency has been disguised as an RV, a revalue of currency, kind of. But it's actually the cabal's
pipe dream.
You think so?
Cashless,
Yeah.
backed by nothing,
backed by nothing.
electronic.
They could take it away
so
instantly.
that is the case with so all currency basically is just whoever's going to subscribe to it and say, I give it value, right?
Well, but unless it's backed by an actual asset, then it actually has that value. Like before our financial.
But even
system,
that, we're saying those assets, gold, we've determined that that's worth something.
Well, and it is low. It's a precious metal that has actual use,
utility.
real
Right.
utility,
Right.
and it has scarcity and it has utility. And so in 1920s, you could go into a bank with 20 Federal Reserve notes and get an ounce of gold. Any bank. And then, not many beings know this, but in 1933, it was made illegal to own gold. Uncle Sam said, if you own gold, you could spend up to 10 years in jail and get fined up to $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened. And then once they had gotten all the gold back, the Federal Reserve transferred it through the Union Bank of Switzerland to the Bank of International Settlements. This is the stuff that was exposed in the Financial Tyranny ebook by David Wilcock and then was in the Shadow Gold documentary. So once they had brought all the gold back in, they raised the price to $35 an ounce, cutting the wealth of the average American by 42% overnight.
Wow.
Because they messed with what backed the dollar. So what crypto is a cashless, backed by nothing currency. And when you have a cashless currency, you can't have a run on a bank. So the banks would have been able to loan out and not have any reserves. And if I take Federal Reserve notes, I can go buy whatever I want and no banker can track it. If it's all electronic, and if you look at Ripple, which was like kind of the banker's crypto,
Version, yeah.
everything was trackable. So then, like, the goal was, because the IMF, Christine Lagarde at the Bank of England Economic Forum last year, I think in September, they were talking about their cryptocurrency. The IMF wanted to have a cryptocurrency. So what I view is that by having the biggest bubble ever blown with Bitcoin, if anybody heard that if I had $100 of Bitcoin in 2010, now it's worth 50 plus million, that conditions the average person who's been in a debt slave system to be like, I want that. I want that cryptocurrency.
Exactly.
I want to have that growth. So instead of the IMF forcing us onto a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin was mysteriously created by we don't know who. Not only did it feed the AI and have a lot of energy being used to power computer processors, but it also was conditioning us to not just accept a cryptocurrency, but to really want it. And then once the bubble popped, then the IMF could step in and say, see what happens when we let you guys do it unregulated. Let the IMF handle this. Let the World Bank handle this. Here's the new cryptocurrency. And then they would have had their cashless, backed by nothing currency.
Interesting. So
And now that the gold-backed currencies and asset-backed currencies are coming out, crypto is going to be significantly devalued because it has no intrinsic value other than what we
here's where and I see where you landed with
blockchain has value.
Blockchain has lots of value, and that's, I can take, for example, the Positive Head app, which is something that's been being developed for a while, slowly but surely. And by the way, if there's any of you guys out there that are app developers, we could use some help. The person that's developing it is hitting a few walls, so yeah, that just made me think of this. But so reach out to me, Brandon at positivehead.com. But back to the normal programming. So just to use that as an example where something that is not backed by anything, but people's buy-in could be positive. So with the Positive Ed app, people are going to create these what I call nods, which are content to uplift other people. It's going to get randomly paired with them. Then if they ultimately it has the desired effect. It's very high vibe, like it's really done a good job. It gets passed around. They'll have an option to pass it around, so others are affected by this this piece of content, right? This uplifting content. So one of the ideas I'm looking at implementing is a token, which is, essentially, and I won't go into all the details of, Bitcoin versus a token like Ethereum, which sits on top of it, can be plugged into all kinds of different apps and used within that ecosystem, right? So in the ecosystem of the Positive Head app, as an example, so someone creates this nod, they earn, I'm looking at calling them blooms if I do this. So they earn blooms, which are this token, right? That's just spendable within the people that would accept blooms as a form of payment for whatever product, service, whatever. So my idea is to allow people to earn blooms by uplifting others, right? Mm-hmm. And then let's say you're a Reiki practitioner, or you had some sort of eco-conscious business that we vet and we say, yes, we like what you're doing. Here's a bunch of blooms that you can use to spend to advertise on our platform. Right? It's called airdropping these tokens, right? Giving you some that you can then promote your thing within our system. The only thing I ask in exchange is that you agree to accept it as a form of payment. So the people who've created nods who are earning this currency, this token for doing something really good, now has places they can actually spend it. To get a Reiki session or to whatever. So now you get a lot of people that agree to accept this bloom, this form of payment. It's not backed by anything but the intention that it's tied to, which is uplifting the world, so here's where I follow your train of thought, but I think there can be something that, what's more valuable than gold? High vibrations, in my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there is a place for something that's not just tied to this physical utilitarian type of substance. And that to me is the beauty of what, blockchain and cryptocurrency or tokens can actually bring to the world, the potential of how it can be used in a way that's really positive.
Right.
Well, this revalue in currency is really just the transition. I mean, because we're going to, right now we are ascending to higher dimensions, and fifth dimensional reality does not have money at all.
Right.
So
because we can create whatever we can imagine and believe in.
Because we are the value.
Right.
We are the value. And also there's in the hidden technologies as well, there is replicators that can create whatever you want, which is why that's been hidden as well, because if we don't have that, we would not need money. Or sorry, if we had it, we would not need money because we could create anything we wanted.
Yeah. And, just one more thing to add on to that. My friend Morgan is involved with a crypto that is backed by gold. Called Quintric, Quintric, and you can actually go, and if you sign up for it, I think it's pre-launch still, and you can actually get some of the crypto. I think is just for signing up, or just some small amount. But it's all backed by gold. So so there is ways that I think this can be used, and of course, what's great about blockchain is it all becomes like transparent. Like you need no third party to mitigate. You need no Airbnb to manage reputation or to distribute the money and keep whatever 20%. It's all done person to person in real time without. And of course, there's all kinds of implications as far as taxes or the lack thereof that need to be paid when I'm paying you directly through this digital currency. What does the government have to say about that? Or it's really be interesting to see what comes down the pipe with how they try and get their paws on these different token exchanges that are going to happen on all these different platforms. And
I think that's going to be a beautiful thing too, is communities can have their own agreed upon blockchain-backed currency. I think what's important, though, is that the overall currencies that we're using on the planet are assets, so that some shadowy private institution can't just create money out of nothing
Mm-hmm.
and loan it at zero interest to the large investment banks to go out and invest in destructive.
But that's the thing about blockchain is like if I have, for example, if I were to use blockchain on let's use the Airbnb example. You know, if you have a property and I want to get access to your property, I don't need a third party to go between anymore. I can just it's all publicly recorded. And if I burn the place down, the reputation piece can be publicly recorded. And that's what, you know, blockchain. No one can say, you can never claim I didn't pay you because it's all publicly known on the blockchain.
Right.
So I think
it's like the ultimate transparency, like the Satya Yuga, the time of truth and transparency, the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So it's like it is a physical manifestation, representation, reflection of this time of transparency that we're in.
Yeah.
So I'm not discounting blockchain. I'm just saying that the bubble of Bitcoin and the attempt of the IMF to transition to a cryptocurrency rather than the alliance transitioning us back to a gold-backed currency like Kennedy tried to do 8 days before he was taken out.
Right.
That's what I'm articulating.
It's an interesting and valid perspective, and I think it's just important to obviously look at all sides of where the truth of what's optimal for the planet will probably lie in some hodgepodge of all these things. You know what I mean? What is really the question always becomes, what is the intention underlying what's being done? Right? Like I gave the positive head nod example. It's like, what is the intention behind what's being done? Well, there's the value in it. You know, so I think it's all so fascinating to just explore and discuss, and you guys have brought some really, really awesome insight and perspectives. Is there anything, I can't believe how quick time flies. Is there anything that you guys feel inspired to share that you haven't shared about this topic and where we're going from here?
Today we were going to go to a Chase Bank protest. We were thinking about it, and actually Lindsay inspired me not to go because she knows deeply within her being that this shift has already happened and that there's transitioning to an asset-backed currency. We don't need to go out and bring attention to the worst things that Chase Bank has done in its life. The best thing that we can do now with our time is to focus our creative capacity on dreaming, feeling the joy of, and believing in the fifth dimensional new earth reality.
Yes. I love that. I think that's a wise choice.
Yeah. I mean, because on Gaia right now, we have a fifth dimensional anchored grid. And so we can all access that right now. Instead of accessing the old Earth 3D, we can anchor into it just by simply meditating, bringing down your energy into intentionally putting it into the 5D grid, crystalline grid, and then bringing it up and then out into the ethers. And just and then having yourself be that vessel of unconditional love, abundance, joy.
So we thought it was much more powerful to come on here and talk about illuminate what has happened so that we can see how far we already have come. And then we can continue to strengthen our belief in how far we will go and how joyous our co-creation is and is becoming, and your eyes are doing the multidimensional.
And getting excited about this new system. As Buckminster Fuller said, and I said it yesterday, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete.
And I'm so glad that you brought this quote up again, because I wanted to mention this when we talked previously. One of the researchers that had a new energy technology device that he actually demoed at the UN and was going to propose to the Senate Banking and Finance Committee, Adam Trombley. He was good friends with Bucky, and they were working together, and he had a new energy, zero-point energy technology device. And Bucky said to him, if you're successful with this, there's going to be hell to pay. Because he knew well the Morgan, Rockefeller, Rothschild, big banking oil bloodline boys are big.
Especially back then when Bucky was still alive.
Right. And so this quote has so much significance, and we can actually do that now. That the power structure that was killing beings who would bring these new technologies out has been neutralized and held accountable. And is being neutralized and held accountable right now. So now we can actually follow through on that and build the new systems that render the old one obsolete.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think Mother Teresa would be proud of you guys today because, you know, you guys, I've said it before, when she was asked to march against the war in Vietnam, you know, all those decades ago, she said, I'll never do that, but have a rally for peace and I'll be there. And I think that's such an important piece to really get and understand. It's like being for something and against nothing, understanding all these control mechanisms that have been in place and done so much damage on our planet and atrocities. It's all part of the hero's journey tale. You can't be, you know, someone's got to play the villain for someone to play the hero and to overcome and to really appreciate the new earth that we are calling in. We're stepping into with our vibration and realizing exactly what Lindsay just said. It's here now, just by tuning your vibration. So any of you guys have been caught up in the fear of, you know, some of this disruptive process as the butterfly is born. Yes, there is some messiness. The caterpillar turns into goo that is then consumed by the butterfly so that it can emerge from the chrysalis. That's how it works.
Cells.
Yeah, and so we are the imaginal cells coming back online, and it's a powerful realization and the bigger picture of what's happening. And this has been an awesome couple-day exploration with you guys. You are both so amazing. Some of my favorite beings that I've had the pleasure of sharing time and space with. So thank you guys so much for shining your light and perspective.
Oh, thanks for giving us the opportunity to share with your cosmic audience of positive heads.
Well, it's all just us here, right? There's only one of us in the room. And who has, one of you guys chose a song. You're going to play DJ today?
So I've been really loving this song by Mishka, Above the Bones. And you can find it on Spotify, the acoustic version. And this is the version that we could find on YouTube, which isn't acoustic. Still very good. Still very good vibrations.
All right, everyone. Until next time, journey well. Love you all so much.
We love we.
Love.
Love, love. Love, love.
Squared. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
Om Ganapataye Namaha. 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 They said it's time, and I know that without a doubt, the spirit in us, what is trying to break out. But this is your time, this is my time to illuminate, cause we were made to shine. Divinity by law in our DNA. They lied but we saw truth anyway. This is divine recognition for this time of remission. Time change mission, said you have my permission to be your light, let no man dim. See your sight is not original sin. I said you came in the same way that you will go, and that's with love and with righteousness. Heed to the flow. But I heard it all before, yes, what the man said. Never held it in my heart, but I held it in my head, yeah. But then I saw now that it isn't just suggestion, it's spiritual law to love all, serve all, and remember Jah. So we love all, serve all, and remember Jah. Love all, serve all, and remember Jah. So we love all, serve all, and remember Jah. Love all, serve all, and remember Jah. This is bliss, that's what it is. So tell your parents and your kids that they should not miss. The time is now, the questions how we look for each other in answers. Singers and dancers will lead the way, been led astray, but now we have answered the calling, and Babylon is falling. Proud to be inside the flow that no man is stopping. I must stand tall, Kahu is watching. So is my family and so is my tribe. Mustn't seek vanity, must seek to be wise. Must seek to be wise, yeah. But I heard it all before, yes, what the man said. Never held it in my heart, but I held it in my head. It isn't just suggestion, it's spiritual law to love all, serve all, and remember Jah. So we love all, serve all, and remember Jah. Love all, serve all, and remember Jah. So we love all, serve all, and remember Jah. Love all, serve all, and remember Jah. Shouting off demands, but throwing my hands. At the time I couldn't even stand, but now I can. Why? And I do it with pride. Arms stretched out and I smile wide, hoping to receive what I am supposed to. Messages and lessons and transmissions as they come through. Dreaming on the daily of what will become. To the people on the planet, will they just stay numb? Or will they awake? For goodness sake, be careful what you take, cause there's life at stake. Calm and collected as I take my dive. Story planned out when the moment arrives. I said choices to voices, my spirit rejoices in moments like this. We feel life's kiss, wrapped up tight in her warm embrace. Love overflowing, no more rat race. These are the times we were meant to grow from. You say that it's beautiful, it takes one to know one. Made out of love, that's what you are. Made out of love, and you come from the stars. Made out of love, and you come from the stars. But I heard it all before, yes, what the man said. Never held it in my heart, but I held it in my head, yeah. But then I saw that it isn't just suggestion, it's spiritual law to love all, serve all, and remember Jah. So we love all, serve all, and remember Jah. Love all, serve all, and remember Jah. So we love all, serve all, and remember Jah. Love all, serve all, and remember Jah. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.